Elon Musk joins Twitter's board of directors. A California city will give money to trans residents. And as gas prices soar, ExxonMobil makes record profits. That and more on this week's headline. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Democratic and Republican senators agreed to spend an additional $10 billion on the U.S. government's COVID-19 response. Wait, Democrats and Republicans agreed on something? And Republicans agreed to let Democrats spend extra money? This is more of an Easter miracle than someone rising from the dead. What's that, Shelley? It turns out this isn't new money they'd be spending. This $10 billion would just be reallocated from $6 trillion in COVID funds Congress already passed. This $10 billion just hadn't been spent yet. Republicans are happy that this won't cost taxpayers any more money. But Democrats say more funds are needed to give international aid to help prevent possible future COVID variants. Meanwhile, I just want to know what this $6 trillion has been spent on and how much is left. What are they going to do with the rest of that money? The way the government spends our tax dollars, it feels like we gave a roommate a $100 bill to go out and buy some toilet paper, and they came home with a new hat, a samurai sword, and a poster of themselves, then gave us one square of single-ply TP and said there wasn't any change left over. Speaking of people spending billions of dollars on a global plague that's slowly dying out, Elon Musk just bought a 9% stake in Twitter. He spent nearly $3 billion on it, and he's now on the board of directors. Musk invested $3 billion in the least popular social media platform that users are leaving in droves? What's next? Is he going to buy a majority share in MySpace just to become the new Tom? I wonder how many of his investments are done just for the sake of memes. Musk isn't doing it just for the memes, though. Musk said he's looking forward to working with Twitter's CEO and board to make significant improvements to Twitter in the coming months. Musk has been polling his followers, asking if they'd like to see an edit button, and whether or not they think Twitter values and promotes free speech. So it seems like Musk wants to fix issues he sees with the platform. Whether that's for the better or worse remains to be seen. In the meantime, Twitter's current and former CEOs are saying they're happy and excited about this. And Wall Street also seems excited by this news, with Twitter stock soaring 27% after the story broke. I wish I were rich enough to buy things I had a problem with and try and fix them. If I were a billionaire, the first thing I'd purchase is every shower curtain company and make it so that they stop blowing towards me. I'm tired of feeling like a ghost is trying to give me a shoulder massage while I'm lathering up. But I can't afford to do that since my roommate keeps misappropriating all my funds. Someone who isn't hurting for money right now is Stacey Abrams. According to state disclosures, a candidate for Georgia state governor, Stacey Abrams, is worth over $3 million. Abrams was criticized by Republicans when she ran for governor of Georgia in 2018 for having a lot of personal debt. She's now being criticized by Republicans who are accusing her of using her campaign finances to make herself wealthy. Wait, did I say criticized? I'm pretty sure they meant to congratulate her for that. Becoming rich off campaign funds is the mark of a true American politician. Although that's not how Abrams made her money. It came primarily from several book deals and financial investments. Abrams responded to these criticisms by saying, "I believe in success. I believe that every person should have the opportunity to thrive. And because I had 3 years where I was in the private sector, I leveraged all 3 years. And in that time, I've done my best to not only be successful personally, but to do what I can to help Georgians." I say good for her, because this is what politics in America is supposed to be all about. Coming from humble beginnings, getting into public service to help your community, then leveraging that fame to become wealthy enough to move to an entirely different community and become completely out of touch. The American political dream. Don't hate the player, hate the game. More after the break. Welcome back. A California senator advanced a bill that will allow citizens to sue anyone who distributes illegal firearms and parts that can be used to create homemade ghost guns that are harder to track. This comes shortly after a mass shooting in Sacramento that took place near the state's Capitol building. Robert Hertzberg, the senator behind this bill, says if someone flashes a ghost gun and talks about it, all of a sudden there's an incentive among the public in a way that there's never been before to try and pull them off the street. Yeah, that sounds like a great idea. Trying to sue someone you know is distributing illegal firearms. Do you realize that the people you have to accuse are armed with illegal firearms? If they're selling illegal guns, pretty sure they won't be afraid to shoot the messenger. Legally speaking, this proposed bill is a bit like Texas's abortion law, which allows citizens to sue anyone providing or assisting abortions after 6 weeks. Several other states have passed laws similar to this, encouraging citizens to sue each other. At this point, why do we even have laws? Just sue whenever someone does something you don't like. They cut you off in traffic? See you in court. Their dog won't shut up? Sue the dog. They murder you for trying to sue them over their illegal guns? Haunt them as a ghost and blow the shower curtain on them. Speaking of things that could make you want to shoot something, ExxonMobil reported profits from pumping oil and gas at over $9 billion for the first quarter, breaking a 7-year quarterly record. Russia's invasion of Ukraine has driven the price of oil up 45% over the last quarter. Although driven might not be the right word for it, since gas is so expensive that the only people who can afford to drive anything these days are the oil execs making record profits. Glad to see them becoming even richer off the misery of others. I don't like that. Does this mean I can sue them? Politicians are trying to combat rising gas prices, and so are citizens, like 6 men who are being accused of being a part of a ring that stole over $60,000 worth of gasoline from Florida gas stations. $60,000? That must be about 4.5 gallons worth. These criminals stole the gasoline and then sold it for half the price. That's terrible. I would like to personally find any of these remaining gas thieves who are still out there and give them a piece of my mind. Does anyone know where I could find them and their cheap gas? And do they take Venmo? But if you need some extra money, you can earn up to $900 a month in Palm Springs, California, if you identify as transgender or non-binary. The Palm Springs City Council unanimously voted on a pilot program to set aside $200,000 to give as much as $900 a month in universal basic income to people who identify as transgender or non-binary. Following this, every single citizen of Palm Springs suddenly identified as transgendered overnight. 20 transgender and non-binary Palm Springs residents will receive the free money funded by the taxpayers for 18 months. Palm Springs Mayor Lisa Middleton, who is transgender, affirmed the program but expressed reservations about having cities fund UBI programs. My vote to affirm that evening was procedural to provide $200,000 to the program in order to help them in the application for state funding. In advance of the vote, I specifically stated my belief that guaranteed income programs were not the long-term way to proceed. I did not commit to any future funding of guaranteed income programs. Originally, this was being reported as a program that would give money to people without regard to income. But now Palm Springs is clarifying that people must meet a poverty threshold. Sorry, Caitlyn Jenner. And after the break, Ketanji Brown Jackson is confirmed to the Supreme Court. Welcome back. The Senate confirmed Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court Thursday afternoon. This is historic because Jackson has become the first black woman appointed to the Supreme Court. At least I assume Jackson is a woman. But maybe I shouldn't assume someone is a woman just because they look like a woman, especially in Palm Springs, where it pays to identify otherwise. But before we get into the next section, I think it's time for an America Uncovered mental health break. Ah, look at those little puppies. Aren't dogs just the best? Anyways, more than 300 dogs starved to death in a Ukrainian animal shelter after going weeks without food or water due to Russian bombing. And even worse, hundreds of people were found dead in the Ukrainian city of Bucha, just north of the capital of Kiev, with many deposited in mass graves. Satellite images showed what appeared to be the bodies of civilians killed in Bucha and left in the streets before Russian troops left the region. These people appear to have been killed execution style, with many of them being tied up. Shelley, can we get those puppies back? This is the first time they've ever needed 2 mental health breaks just to get through one story. Russia denied responsibility, saying that the people in the satellite images aren't dead, and that this was staged to make Russian troops look bad after they had already left. However, satellite images show these bodies were in the streets while the Russian military still occupied the region. As if it wasn't already hard enough to trust anything Russia says, now their excuses just make them sound like Alexander Jonesovich. These are clearly crisis actors. This is all a false flag from the deep state. The Russians couldn't have shot them. Everyone knows we used poison. In response to this, the U.S. announced new sanctions against Russian leader Vladimir Putin's daughters and additional penalties toward Russian banks. And President Biden called for Putin to be put on trial. He's a war criminal. This guy is brutal, and what's happening in Bucha is outrageous. And everyone's seen it. I think it is a war crime. He should be held accountable. However, Putin is unlikely to face any formal punishment for war crimes, as war crimes are historically difficult to investigate and prosecute. Plus, it's not like Putin's going to willingly go along with it. Putin is as likely to show up in a court as people in California who are being sued for distributing illegal firearms. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said even worse atrocities committed by Russian troops are likely to be uncovered. He also called on the United Nations to punish Russia by removing them from the Security Council, saying either remove Russia as the aggressor, or if you can't do anything, then dissolve yourself as an entity. Yeah, having Russia on the Security Council is like having China on the Human Rights Council. That would be absurd. Glad that isn't a thing that's somehow totally real. Russia was also on the UN Human Rights Council until they got suspended this week. Then Russia said, hey, you can't suspend me, I quit. Unsurprisingly, China opposed Russia's suspension, probably because they're worried that if the UN actually grows a spine, China could get kicked out of the Human Rights Council too. For, genocide? But I've got to admit, the Chinese Communist Party is a lot better than the Russians at burying their crimes. Meanwhile, Ukrainian President Zelensky also said that future peace negotiations with Putin would be a challenge after the massacre in Bucha. And he pleaded for weapons from Western nations to help in the fight. I'm sure he could get plenty from California. So it looks like this war may stretch on even longer, which means there are going to be some wild parties in the ExxonMobil offices this weekend. As I've said before, war, yeah. What is it good for? Making people money. I just wish these war profiteers could make money the honest and decent way, by becoming a politician, or lying about how they identify in Palm Springs. So what do you think about the stories we covered this week? Let us know in the comments below. And remember, America Uncovered is supported mainly by viewers. Be sure to visit patreon.com/AmericaUncovered. Contribute $1 or more per episode. We rely on your support to help us keep making great episodes. Or join our exclusive social media community on Locals. Check out americauncovered.locals.com. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thanks for watching America Uncovered.